Hi, it's Sharon from Grace's Neighbor Sharon. I hope you enjoy the video. Project number 1. Love wall hanging. I'm using a piece of scrap lumber and a metal love word that I purchased from Dollar Tree. I'm scooping out my paint because it's very nearly done and it's pretty thick. I used a wet brush with it's a chippy brush because I didn't need full coverage because I'm going to have a piece of burlap on top of this. So I waited a little bit for the paint to dry and tried some stitching on the word. I really should have had a Sharpie because it was barely noticeable and kept smudging and I kept having to go back and fix it. But now that the paint is dry, I am cutting a piece of this white burlap to size and fraying the edges. The burlap was purchased at Walmart several months ago and I just haven't used it till now, and it's just like so cool. So the burlap needs a good coat of Mod Podge to settle into, and once it's settled down, it also needs a good full sloppy coat of Mod Podge on top. And now is the time to, you know, slather it on there. Now is not the time to be delicate. It does require a very, very healthy dose of Mod Podge. Now, while I waited for that to dry, I got out my buttons and was sort of trying to decide what buttons to put on the bows that are going to cover the corners of the word, because they had pretty large openings for the hanging cord. But then I remembered this is supposed to be a neutral project, so no pink and red, and they were pretty. I got them off eBay and I hardly ever use them. It's such a shame. But I chose nice cream colored ones that fit nicely. And then I went ahead and set out some of these tumbling tower blocks. This is what I'm going to use to raise the word up off the board. And this is really cool project because it's all about, you know, layers and making something so simple so interesting and beautiful. You know, you're starting with scrap lumber and you're making this beautiful sign. So I did get some super glue on there, and instead of flipping it over right away, I usually like to let it sit and gel up. So I decided it was a good time to make some finger bows. I wrapped them around my forefingers about 7 times and then just tied a really tight knot in the back. Then I finished up the tumbling tower blocks with a little bead of hot glue and then immediately flipped it over and made sure I set it down in an area that wasn't visible from the front. So just to make it not visible. And I was pretty happy with how I got it not visible. And so now I'm using some hot glue. Or no, I'm sorry, not hot glue. Now I'm using some wood glue. Oh, use too many glues in this project. You do not have to be weird about the glues like I am. I just could not decide which glues when and where. So this time it's wood glue and hot glue, and that was a really quick bead of hot glue, and I flipped it over and right away got it down because you do not have a whole lot of time to move it around. Thankfully, I was pretty much perfect to where I wanted it, and so this time I'm just using hot glue to attach the finger bows to cover the large openings left by removing the hanging cord. And the buttons I just hot glued on there as well. All right, then we're going to trim the edges on the finger bows. Sometimes I like to leave them long, but this particular time I'm going to go ahead and trim them. Now this is a pretty heavy piece of wood, so you want a substantial hanger. So this time I chose two kinds of glue, some wood glue and some hot glue. Now I frayed the edges on this cord, this hanging cord. This is just the Dollar Tree nautical rope. Set the rope down, stapled the frayed edge, and there you go. Better look at the final reveal. Project number 2. Staying in. This is my first chalk couture project. So I'm showing you all the little things I got. I got the single packs and a little mini squeegee. There is a way to not use the whole single pack. If I can find the link to the video I watched about how to do that, I'll include it in the description box below. So to start things off, I'm going to paint white chalk paint over my desired blank. It's just an old piece of particle board. And then after that dries well, I'm hitting it with some white wax. And I'm just using paper towel for that. Then I have that little box there full of hearts. So I'm going to grab a few and just paint them the same color as the board, because they're kind of shiny and I want to use them later on and I don't want them to be shiny. I don't have a fuzzing mat, so I'm just using a clean t-shirt and I'm just going to fuzz it twice, I think. And I feel like that's good enough. I guess that's 3 times. The stencils are a lot more flexible than I realized. They're definitely more bendable than I thought. Here I'm just making sure that there's an even amount of space side to side and top and bottom. I want it to be as centered as I can just because of the way the stencil is, being a little bit smaller than the board. So you're supposed to knead the packets and then put them out in a little dish. But I kneaded it and put it out on squeegee, and I'm thinking, this is weird. Like I'm really having to force the chalk. And I managed to get it all, but it took a little bit. I'm like, that just didn't seem right. So then I go on to my next color, and I've already forgotten what it is, but it was the 3 colors were chosen by COUTURE for this particular transfer. So second one went fine. I kneaded it. It was nice and liquidy, much more liquidy feeling than the black, and the same with the third color. It kneaded really well, much better than the black. So I know the black is too dense right now. I need to get it more like a liquid, more squishy. And so just the little spray there of water, because they say COUTURE actually says you can water down your paste sometimes because it is too dry. So, but just a really small amount. So that's what I did. Got the black on the bottom, no problem at all, and slowly pulled it off. And they advise you to pull it off from the top, not diagonally. And that's just so as not to stretch the transfer. I decided to put a little heart on top of the middle house, sort of symbolic of this is our house and we're staying in, like the wording, like the message says. And then I wanted to do borders, so you'll see I did the ribbon in the top, and then I decided I still wanted something, and I wrapped it with the twine and the hearts, but then I realized the heart in the middle wasn't going to work, so I took it off and added a finger bow, and one part of the bow covers up where I took the little heart off. And I like how that looks, and I think it ties everything together. And then I just spray it with a finishing spray. It's just like a matte finishing spray. And this is good to go, and I'll give you a good look at it during the final reveal. Project number 3. Rustic heart. I have the heart from Dollar Tree, the stencil from Walmart. I have these ribbons from Michael's. I might have said before they were 75% off, actually 90% off. Then I have my chalk paint and some Dollar Tree ribbon, the burlap and lace ribbon. And there's that cool stencil, and I'm showing you the actual stencil that I'm going to be using. They actually had it stapled to the cardboard. I actually had to like undo it. In the meantime, let's get started. So I don't know if this is burlap or some kind of fabric, but I managed to get it up. But like, look at what's left behind. Like, holy cow. A lot of sparkles, sprinkles, glitter. A lot of glitter. So I did sand it a little bit. Vacuumed all over with my little ladybug vacuum that I didn't show. I should have showed you that. But anyway, I found some old Dollar Tree vinyl that was big enough for this, and I decided I would use it to cover the back because I just wasn't going to get it sanded to any appearance that I would want anyone to see, because where I'm hanging it on my door, it's actually a window, so you can see the front and back. So I thought that looked pretty good for the back. The little foam rose that was attached to the front was actually attached through a hole and then like a little eyelet thing in the back. It's very strange why they didn't just hot glue it. So I had to fill that in before I could paint. But here we are. This is the chalk paint, but I kind of watered it down, maybe just a wee bit too much. I did have to do quite a few coats, maybe 4 or 5. But I always find it interesting to see what shape people, you know, do their brush in when they're painting, or where they start or where they finish. But I did get some pretty good coverage here, and I was pretty happy with it because I was going to give it a rustic treatment anyway. And I'm using a little chippy brush and some burnt umber acrylic paint. Actually comes out really good. I do like this distressing. And I especially like doing this distressing on the edges. So there's the one I made last year in the bottom left there. That's my little shabby chic one with the pink messy bow. So I'm going to follow the design of that one, only make this one rustic and kind of neutral. So speaking of kind of neutral, I decided to use these little red hearts, even though I had a choice of red, white, light pink, and dark pink. The other ones just didn't seem like they would look that great, and I really like a distressed red. So that's what I went for, and each one looks a little bit different than the one before it. So I did a dry fit, made sure I had good coverage of the side and up to the middle there. And then when I was happy with that, I went ahead and just pushed them off to the side. And I'm trying to figure out where to put the stencil. It's kind of hard to see there, but I'm looking at the heart from last year. I actually have it hanging up in front of me. So I'm looking at it, and then I'm looking down at my desk. I'm looking at it, looking down at my desk. So I get it taped in there, and then I use elephant chalk paint to do the word love. And then I think that's red. I think that's red acrylic paint. So I was a little bit worried about bleeding. But watch the reveal. Look at that. Actually came out really nice. I was very happy with it. So my glue gun conked out. It's still charging, and it just wouldn't do anything. So I'm attaching the little heart decor hearts with just some wood glue, Elmer's wood glue. And then, time for the bow. I did 6 inches on the 3 different ribbons. So I did the burlap and lace, then I have the buffalo check one, and then I have the burlap and buffalo check one. And I think they look good together. And, you know, I probably didn't need to do that many, but that's what I chose, and so I just went for it. I just kept at it. And I just chose the X pattern. That's what works best for me. I know exactly where to tie it, and how, you know, how to pick it up and fix it and everything. You can keep these messy after you tie them, or you can just let them go every which way. That's totally up to you. Here I'm trying to cinch in a little bit, but I have so many, by the time I cinch in about half of them, I realize I'm just going to wind the twine around this and just try and get it together as best I can. Take the little, my little sanding paper there and fold it up and get in at the little hearts so it doesn't pull the red across the white. I just sand in each little individual heart. I'm using this staple to attach the messy bow because my glue gun is still not working. But that's pretty much it. I'm going to use a thin buffalo check ribbon as the hanging cord, and you'll see this at the final reveal. Final reveal. Thanks for sticking around. Don't forget to subscribe and give me a big thumbs up. See you soon.